As you are probably aware, your minister and I are kind of what people call makers. We make stuff for fun and practicality. Together we have made furniture, clothing, quilts, soap, repaired cars, and cooked for, well, at this point in our lives, thousands of people. We like to make stuff. We enjoy the process of transformation that occurs when you create something new. One of my favorite quilt cartoons featured a husband and his wife in her sewing room, and he says, somewhat bewilderedly, "So you buy perfectly good large pieces of fabric, cut them into hundreds of pieces of smaller fabric, and then put them back together." What he doesn't get is the transformational process in quilting. One of the things that I very much like to do, but don't do very often, is baking. Baking is alchemy. Alchemy with delicious results. The trouble with this particular alchemy is that no one in our house really needs the end results. For years, I avoided baking because society and my doctors were always telling me that I needed to lose weight. I was medically labeled morbidly obese, and the male clothing industry is not kind to short, wide men. Actually, it's not really kind to short or wide men, and the combination is just a multiplier. I realize that this is not only a problem for male-identified bodies, but I think for male-identified bodies, the difficulty sometimes gets overlooked. So baking presented a problem. What to do with the baked goods after you are done being all alchemical? Before seminary, I worked in large offices. I had hordes of cohorts, and it was a safe bet that any baked good left in the break room with a sign indicating so would be consumed by your coworkers. It was the best of both worlds. I got to bake all the stuff I wanted, and I didn't have to consume it all. Well, now I work in an office with mostly just one or two other people, and at least one coworker has asked me to stop doing this because they've gained weight. So I stopped doing it. But the one time of the year that I seem unable to resist baking is for Christmas cookies. One year I hosted a cookie exchange in my home, and we figured that there were more than 1,000 cookies there that night. I had asked all my friends to bring one batch of a cookie from their childhood. They were batches of cookies from South Africa, from India, from all over the United States, and from many ethnicities. Prepared in advance, though, as I always am, I had holiday-themed Ziploc bags, and no one was allowed to leave until their bag was full, because there was no way I needed 1,000 cookies in my apartment. One of the problems of being an intermittent baker is that it can be hard to produce the perfect cookie with any consistency. It seems that faithfully watching, and sometimes re-watching, every episode of the Great British Bake Off does not guarantee success in the oven. So I guess I'll talk about yesterday's cookies right now, since it seems germane. I was going to bake you all cookies. I want you to know. I found this great new recipe. It was a ginger cookie, a ginger marble cookie, and part of it had Chinese spice in it. It was going to be so amazing. And the first 4 cookies came out great. They were huge, though. They were 2 tablespoons, giant cookies. I thought, I can't bring those. So I then made smaller cookies. 6 times I put fresh offerings into the oven to be martyred by an oven that would not behave itself. Like 5 minutes and the parchment paper was burned. I don't know what happened. So they were going to be great, though, I want you to know. They were going to be amazing. So just for a moment, imagine delightful ginger cookies with little bits of Chinese spice in them. They're great. And so you end up with imperfect cookies if you're not a good baker. I wrote the piece that Reverend Denis read earlier and included it in a tin of cookies that were left for dear friends one year for Christmas. The thing about these friends is they really are the kind of friends who you can be imperfect with, and that is a blessing. Friends like this are a blessing. Ralph Waldo Emerson once said, "Before a true friend, I can think aloud." Meaning that with a true friend, I don't have to have it all worked out. Every thought or action doesn't have to be rehearsed. I can just be myself. And this true friend will not only accept me for who I am, but I can trust them to not take advantage of my vulnerabilities. True friendship does not lack its conflict, its places of disagreement. True friendship is not a mirror of one's own opinions and thoughts. And so I've come here today to ask you this question: are you a good friend? I don't mean to imply that you're not, that I've heard stories about you, because I haven't, but to encourage you to consider the question so that the expression of your friendship is thoughtful and intentional, not merely happenstance or habit. If you're a good friend, it means you not only listen to someone else's troubles and nod sympathetically. It means more than sharing book titles and maybe a shopping trip, or a walk in the woods, or a walk to the westernmost part of Rhode Island, or a kayaking adventure. A good friend must also place their trust in you. A good friend trusts you with their less than perfect edges. These truths of our imperfections can be tenderly held by us. And dear, in the 19th century meaning of the word, meaning both precious and costly, these tender imperfections of ours are more important than just the average, everyday ones that we share easily or casually. It is in offering these truths to our friends that we develop deep relational friendships. It is in also accepting these truths that we help develop deep relational friendships. So why am I not talking with you about holding with care the tender truths of others instead of focusing on vulnerability? It is because I think as a people, Unitarian Universalists are better at holding the tender truths of others than we are at sharing our own tender truths. Because to hold the imperfection of another in generosity is safer than showing our own tender truth to another. It's easier. We risk less judgment, and we look good for doing this for people anyway. I'm not saying we're not good people, but I think we could be great people. I really do. To offer some part of your story to another, a difficult part, is an act of trust. I've done it this morning with you in this very sermon. In 18 years of ministry, I've never talked about my weight from the pulpit. It has gone on always as this unspoken but obvious truth. It is not that I'm ashamed of my weight, but as many of you have already know, society brings a lot of pressure to our bodies, all bodies. My body, certainly to a lesser extent than the bodies of people with ovaries, with people who have darker complexion than I do, with people who find their way to claim their true nature. And so I come to you not as one the most in danger, but as one who has been in some danger. And in that danger lies some vulnerability, a vulnerability I rarely speak about. I offer this truth, this my tender truth to you in trust. I feel I can take this risk with you because really I know you. Now, after 3 years of being your minister's spouse, of being in your midst for dinners, tenebraes, and Christmas Eve Eves, and countless conversations. And because of that, I trust you won't come up to me after the service and call me chubby or ashamed me for eating a cookie. I trust that you will take what I have said to you into your heart and imagine my experience for a while. I hope in your imagining you will be called to even greater acts of behaviors of compassion, not only to others but to yourself. And I hope that you will see that a tender truth is a gift that you can offer those you trust. I don't mean a well-rehearsed, frequently spoken truth, one that requires no risk. Confessing that you're vegetarian is not a tender truth, though it may be a fact. A tender truth is just that, tender to you, not broadcast, not frequently shared, and to offer it to a friend is an act of trust. In an offering of that truth, you are giving the hearer a gift, a precious gift that says, I trust you not to hurt me when you learn this about me. I believe that we are certainly capable of being the person another can trust. But I want us to think about, am I trusting enough to be vulnerable? We Unitarian Universalists are, generally speaking, very high-functioning, hyper-capable people. We are doers and thinkers and hard workers for social justice. But are we ever really vulnerable? Do we understand that we are both responsible to and for each other? In our holy communities, is there enough real communion? How can what we share help us to enrich our friendships and our lives? Let us journey together carefully, lovingly, patiently, and filled with grace to and for each other. Please rise now as you're willing and able for hymn number 1.